Hi and welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Subscribing costs you absolutely nothing, but it greatly helps out the channel. For today, I am reviewing Eternals on 4K Ultra HD disc. I will be reviewing both the film and the audio video quality of the disc. This was my first time seeing the film. I was going to go see it in the theaters. Then the reviews were kind of mixed. In fact, this is the first Marvel film or MCU Marvel film that I did not see in the theaters. Out of every single one, this is the only one I did not go see in theaters. And I initially did plan to, but I wasn't interested in enough that it didn't see it opening weekend. And for me, my interest kind of falls off if I don't see movies opening weekend. And this was the first Marvel film I didn't see opening weekend. In fact, I might have seen them all opening day. Yeah, so this was my first time seeing the film. So I waited for the 4K Ultra HD release after I kind of lost interest in checking it out in the theaters. So first I'll go into the scores of the audio and video. That way, if you have not seen the film and you don't want any spoilers, you could check out after the audio video quality, because I won't have any spoilers while I review the audio video quality of the film. And then after that, I will review the actual film, where there will be some spoilers. I can't really avoid them without talking about my review of this film. So video, this is a Disney disc. Disney is hit or miss. I wouldn't say they're hit or miss, but they either drop the ball or they do pretty good. This one, there's not really much to say about it. The video quality, I'm just going to go right to the score. I give it a 7.1. It's a 4K disc. It's a clean image. It just kind of lacked something for me, and that will go into my score for the HDR. And this is where the HDR score is so low that it affected the overall video quality score for me, which I usually don't try to bundle those together too much, but you kind of have to in a sense. But the HDR in this film was extremely washed out, very muted. In fact, I wouldn't even know it had HDR if it wasn't put on the disc. Like if I went to someone's house, and even if they had a great calibrated TV and had this film on, I would probably guess they're watching the Blu-ray. In all honesty, the HDR was non-existent, and it's so non-existent that it actually suffered instead, because it was such a washed out. You know, they have blue colored costumes, like never did those kind of like stand out in a scene. The only scenes that seemed to stand out were where she was talking to that celestial, I forget his name, I think it was Hermes or something. I could be off, but whatever it is. It's not a good movie, so it doesn't really matter what the hell his name was. But anytime I saw like his red or like lava, there's a scene with a volcano and there's lava, that's the only time the HDR stood out to me. Even with all their little whatever the hell they're doing, where they make like swords and weapons out of like thin air, and it's like made out of light, it's still the HDR was not existent. So my HDR score is a 5.9, and because of that, that's why my video score was a 7.1. Moving on to audio, it is a Dolby Atmos mix. Disney, here's where they really sometimes do drop the balls with the Atmos. You always have to turn the volume up more, and sometimes they don't have a very active Atmos channel. The channels themselves were pretty decently active, nothing spectacular, nothing that stood out. And then in the Atmos parts, again, there wasn't anything that like really stood out. There's a couple scenes where I heard the overhead effects, but nothing that really like stood out to where I was like, okay, this is a great mix. I mean, not even one individual scene where it could boost up the score because that scene was good. So not too much to talk about there. Audio, I give a 7.8, and then as far as Atmos specifically, I give a 6.1. My basis for Atmos and HDR, basically a 5 is just saying it exists on the disc for them including it. So in a sense, 5 is almost a 0. So you'll never see me put one below 5 for Atmos and HDR. So 5 is kind of the base point. It didn't make sense to do 0, because at least if they include it, I give them credit for that. But just so you know where it is. So with the HDR being a 5.9, that essentially is a 0.9 above the flat lowest that it could be for just having HDR included. And then Atmos is a 6.1, which would essentially be a 1.1. And moving on to movie itself. Movie itself, this is where I'll get into spoilers. So if you only wanted to know the audio video review, check out now. Come back after you watch the film, or save yourself time. Don't bother watching the film. But going into the film, okay, so clearly I didn't like the film at all. My opinion, the worst MCU movie by far, by absolute far. I would watch Thor Dark Knight 10 times before I would watch this movie again. A big problem with me was it didn't even feel like an MCU movie. Like it felt more disconnected from the MCU than the early Marvel shows that were on Netflix, where it's like they kind of just reference it, but it's like the MCU wants nothing to do with it. So like the MCU is not pushing hard to kind of make itself known in there. It's just in this movie, they're mentioning it in the same way that they would mention like the New York events in the Netflix shows. So it felt very, very disconnected from the MCU, which made me disconnected from the film. And then there's just so many plot holes, which I know is ridiculous to say in a comic book movie. And I'm not one to really point out plot holes ever. If the movie's enjoyable, it's enjoyable. This one, there was just so much stuff that didn't make sense. So much just bad decisions. For instance, at the beginning of the movie, Salma Hayek's character, I think yeah, I don't even know her name, and it doesn't matter. The character that Salma Hayek played in the film, the first time you see her is her dead. And it's like, they make it like it's this big dramatic moment. I think you see her in flashbacks at the very beginning, but the first time you see her in current time, which isn't very far into the movie at all, she's dead. And they make it like it's some this dramatic event, but how am I supposed to give a shit about someone that I have no idea about in the movie? I'm not invested in the character at all, but I'm supposed to give a shit that they died? No, I don't give a shit. And it was so annoying that it was even there, because they clearly played it up like it was this big thing, like we're really supposed to give a shit. I mean, I get where people die in earlier movies and they know you don't give a shit. It's just part of the storyline. They really pushed it like that this was so major and you have to give a shit. But no, we didn't. Nobody gave a shit. Probably my next pet peeve after that was Angelina Jolie's character. I think Athena, or it was something weird. It was like Athene, I think is maybe they said her name was, but whatever it was, Angelina Jolie's character. At the beginning of the movie, she like kind of gets I don't know if it's overtaken or brainwashed, whatever it is. And she kind of turns on the Eternals. This is the very beginning of the movie, like even in the flashback is where it happens. Then when they meet up with her in current times, she's still kind of like that, but one of the other characters is kind of watching over her. But she's still like that. She's still the evil one, kind of turned against them. And then the girl Cersei, who is the main character, I'd say probably of the film, outside of Icarus, she just is like, hey, Athena, don't be like that, or something just god awful. It probably was a little less stupid than I'm saying it, but it was stupid nonetheless. But in a sense, basically she's just like, hey, don't be like that. And then suddenly Angelina Jolie's character is like perfectly fine. It's like it's been like 25,000 years or some shit like that. And she's just like, oh, okay. And it's like they didn't think of this for the past 25,000 years. They let this woman be fucking crazy or evil or whatever. And this person comes on and is just like, hey, don't. And she's like, oh, okay, I didn't think of that. Thanks for clearing that up. The plot twist, if you could call it that, was super predictable. Everyone saw it coming. Nobody cared. It's just such a boring film. It's not good. It doesn't feel like an MCU. If it was a Netflix show, it would be probably rated about what Iron Fist season 1 was rated. I mean, people have their own opinion. I'm sure some people like it, but I feel people that like it are the same people that say The Dark Knight is a terrible movie. They're just doing it to be different because most people don't like it. So some people, just to be different and they know they don't like it, will say that it's the greatest MCU film. And then some people, that same person will say The Dark Knight is the worst Batman film, and just idiots. I really don't have time for that. But okay, the movie sucked. I give it a 6.2. Honestly, I don't even know why I'm giving it that high. In fact, I wrote down 6.2. I'm changing it. I'm giving it a 4.2 because it does not deserve a 6.2. Don't watch it. Don't waste your time. Do not recommend anyone to watch it unless you don't like that person. It's not the worst movie ever made. It's not even the worst superhero movie ever made. That's Wonder Woman 84. But it just sucks. And it's the worst MCU movie, and it kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth. And I hope the MCU has nothing to do with it going forward, because they clearly wanted nothing to do with it in the first place, because it's just like something that exists outside the box, and they were just lucky enough to mention the MCU references in it. It'd be no different if I just made a movie tomorrow and me and my friends were talking about the events that happen in the MCU films, because, you know, it'd be about the same, and it'd be more interesting. But yeah, that's it. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. Actually, we'll do a giveaway for this one. Like I said, once we got to 1,000 subscribers, we do giveaways for every 4K disc. So all you have to do to be entered to win the disc, if you want to give a gift to your enemy, is subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment below, and from the comments below, we will pick one winner, and we'll be shipping out a copy of Eternals on 4K UHD to whoever is the unlucky bastard to win. All right, thanks, bye.